Welcome, everyone. My guest today is Kenon Chen, the Executive Vice President of Strategy and Growth at Clear Capital, to talk about the appraisal changes that are coming in 2026 and whether the industry is ready for that. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Trust and Will, for making this episode possible. Kenon, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I always love to be here with you.
I love having you on. You have expertise in a lot of different areas, so love to pick your brain. So we're going to start today with talking about the changes that are coming in 2026 for appraisals, and what does that look like?
Well, there's a lot happening right now for sure. On the GSE in the GSE world, we're seeing the implementation of UAD 3.6 happening all across the industry. We are technically in the limited production period, but no one has really started limitly producing yet, because we're still waiting for the appraisal form software providers to be completely ready so we can start producing those reports. But there's a lot of investment moving towards the November mandate of 2026 to be ready industry-wide.
Give us some context in like how big of a change is this on a TRID scale? How would you grade this?
Maybe not to TRID levels, but I think, in the appraisal world anyway, this is like an 8 out of 10. I mean, I think this is a pretty massive change. The appraisal forms haven't been updated in decades. And then the underlying data set hasn't been updated since 2013-ish or so, around there. So it's a massive change to both the input and the output of appraisal. On the input front, the data standard is now moving to a much more structured way of reporting on the house. I mean, it really makes the house, sets it up into it's a building with stories, and each story has floors, and within each floor there's characteristics, and it's something where it'd be very difficult to use the old school method of writing things down on a clipboard to gather all the data that's needed on site. It really encourages the use of mobile technology and more modern data gathering techniques.
So an 8 out of 10 on the TRID scale is pretty big. That means it's a pretty seismic change. And I think one of the things that really surprised me when I came into the industry was how a change on forms could just have this ripple effect, and then it's a tidal wave at the end. So, I mean, are we ready for that? Do we feel like this is going to be a really big, painful event for appraisers?
Well, it's first of all, it's the entire ecosystem that needs to change, right? The forms and the data structure, itself together hit everything. They hit the loan origination system, the point of sale, the middleware that lenders use, the AMCs, the appraisers themselves, all the way through the investors, and how you work with Fannie and Freddie with UCDP. So it's like this entire end-to-end change, and it's a shame that we haven't, as an industry, all really jumped in early enough, because limited production was supposed to have already started in September, yet we're still, as an industry, not completely ready yet. And so I am worried that after the first of the year, we're going to see a lot of folks jump in late to try to get ready and just have this mad scramble when it doesn't have to be, right. So I in fact, I spoke at the MBA risk conference and asked folks to raise their hand if they'd already started preparing for it, and there was nothing but lenders in the room. Like, one person raised their hand.
Whoa.
So it's January is going to be a very, I think, crucial month to everyone to hit it hard. Both the GSEs and the FHFA have said that they're not going to move the date out from November of next year being the mandate. They're not budging. So that leaves lenders to really think about that entire ecosystem I described, the tech ecosystem, but also work with their providers to make sure they're identifying how to get started, as soon as possible.
So where are we on that when you think about appraisers all over the country? I think, I know of companies like yours. I know of all the like cutting edge appraisal things that are out there. But how many of the appraisers out there are still literally have a clipboard and that's what they do?
Well, funny enough, there's been some requests from appraisers to design um, a clipboard ready printout of what's needed for the 3.6, which just kind of boggles my mind in some ways because we've had mobile tech available for the appraisal process for years and years now, and we've had scanning technology. I mean, the ability to like walk around the home with a mobile phone and get an accurate floor plan and characteristics for 5 6 years now.
Wow.
I think it's a great opportunity for folks to make that transition into mobile technology. And I honestly, I think it'll be needed to do a good job. I don't see how you can memorize all the enumerations and all the detail that you need on site quickly.
In the aftermath or during the pandemic, however you want to say, just the crazy buying that was going on because of the very low rates. Appraisal was such a huge pain point, right? Up until middle of 2022, maybe a little bit longer. And then it's like, it's not a pain point anymore because, things have just gotten back to it first, went off a cliff and then now more normal. From your perspective and the timing of this, is this good timing having this change come now?
Well, we do tend to have a short-term memory, right, in the industry. And I do think, though, it's actually great timing for this. We still have fairly low, volumes, right, historically, but yet we can all see a little bit of optimism as to what might be coming as we've seen a couple rate cuts and anticipating hopefully another couple cuts coming. So now is the right time to get ready. Like now is the right time to be thinking about the experience that you want your borrowers to have, and the way that you can compete, right, in the market. So, yeah, I do think it's the right time to invest in this so that we can have better data, to automate more on the underwriting side, to improve quality and reduce the risk of repurchase. There's all kinds of good things that come from this change. And then the funny thing is that on the other side of the house, on the consumer lending side, with the rise of home equity lending, both HELOCs and HELOANs, and the increase in non QM products like DSCR loans, that is very consumer focused right now. It's very much about speed and about certainty as early as possible to arm the homeowner with understanding of what they need to do and what options are available to them. And they're all embracing automated valuations and automated property condition reports. And so to me, that same sort of mindset of a really solid experience with a lot of certainty, value certainty up front, is what also needs to be embraced on the mortgage side to get ready for what's coming.
It's always, I feel like our industry is always caught in that same conundrum, right? Between like the regulation and all the things they have to do, which are important for a lot of good reasons, but also like on the other hand, you have this consumer that's ready to go and they don't understand why it takes so long or, why they can't understand the process more or the whole thing. And it's like this feels like where we always are technologically.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the point of all the great um, innovations with AI and with automation if we don't provide a better consumer experience? With less friction and less stress in the process. All of that is available to us now. We have all the ingredients. It's really about, I think, prioritizing that and then implementing these solutions in a way that you know that that thinks about more accurate certainty upfront, that reduces surprises downstream for consumers.
Well, let's talk about the technology a little bit, right? So, would love to know from you, what are you excited about right now when it comes to looking at the tech that's available for appraisers?
Specifically the things going on right now that excite me is that we've got sort of this opportunity to embrace like a triple threat, if you will, where we have the maturity of technologies like machine learning and deep learning, that like for us we embraced back in 2017 using machine learning to improve the accuracy of automated valuation models around the country. We got that, and we've got deep learning in the form of computer vision, which lets us do some pretty amazing things, from photos, extract data and understand properties condition and quality. And then we have Gen AI and agentic AI now, where we can start to automate actual, workflows, and the way that that data is, used to understand appraisal's quality. And so those three things together represent, I think, a pretty powerful set of tools to have accurate predictions of things like value, an understanding of more of the qualitative aspects of properties in a way that we haven't, other than humans staring at photos, and then actual automation of the workflow and the decisioning and things and the reasoning that happens, when you have all that data in front of you. So now is the time, I think, to lean into that within the valuation world, um, rather than digging in our heels and saying, "Oh no, we don't want things to change."
So, in the midst of all that opportunity to do new things and do it in new ways, where does the human appraiser still fit?
Well, I mean, the human appraiser is still the only, licensed, certified person that's gone through, thousands of hours of training, experience in the local market, really understanding, local market, dynamics, and having the ability to do the type of analysis and look through data in a way that, um, leads to a not only an answer, but an answer supported by sound analysis. We still need appraisers, very much in the process. Um, but since we're in transition between like having automated, tech tools and analysis working with people, we need to, I think, rethink the way that technology and humans work well together so that we get a better outcome. It's not just one or the other. Um, so yeah, that's how I think about it. Is that we're in this sort of hybrid world, if you will, where a human in a loop can be a really powerful thing if we've embraced all the tools available to us.
I also feel like, the appraisal industry has really tried to be like, okay, what do we do to attract new talent, right? Like, we all know that the average age of an appraiser is really close to retiring right now, right? And so, like, how do you attract people into a profession if the thought is, it's all going to be automated? I mean, what do I need to be in there for, right? But if you can thread the needle with, like, we need a human in the loop, it seems like that would be more appealing to younger people coming into the industry and wanting to make a career of it. If it's like, listen, it's not you walking around with a clipboard. I'm not sure a lot of young people want to do that.
Well, I mean, it's a similar conversation going on right now in other industries too. I mean, um, for uh, folks that do coding, development and engineers there, right? I mean, we saw some pretty massive changes from folks like Amazon that have, changed a lot of what was writing code now to a position where you're reading code that's been generated and making the appropriate changes to get that code production ready. So you're moving yourself to a different part of the assembly line, if you will, of software development. And and I don't think, though, anyone would say that we don't need people that understand, understand coding, understand good software design and all that in the process. It's the same with appraisal, right? The idea that a human needs to own every single aspect of it doesn't make sense. They don't today. So all we're doing is reimagining, where the human fits in, as we think about things like hybrid appraisals and that, which have been very successful during the last, you know, um, cycle of having, what you were saying, having a ton of appraisals happening in the industry during 2021. We still saw turn times remain flat. It was a scalable process that worked really well no matter what was being thrown at it. Um, so yeah, we're not the only industry dealing with this, and we can learn a lot from others that are going first.
What do you think the data that we get now, when you talked about it being more accurate, is there, is it the amount of data? Is it the fact that it's being computed differently, like by this AI or by a computer instead of a person? Like, why do you feel like we now have better quality data?
Well, we certainly have the ability to roll out standards now on a national level using technology in a way we haven't before. When you have individuals in local markets doing things the way that they've been trained or feel is appropriate for their market, um, you end up with just different approaches all over the country, right? Someone might approach condition rating differently in their local market area than the national standard. And that makes it really hard if you're a national lender or someone holding the risk, right? You want consistency on how these things are implemented. And so technology helps us do that, right? The technology can be trained in a standardized way to produce a consistent output. That's why we care so much about things like floor plans and getting a floor plan on every listing, because it can use national standards for the difference between total square footage and gross living area, and know that that data is consistent, across the country, no matter who's holding the phone.
How do you think appraisals? So this administration has been really focused on affordability, right? I mean, day one, Donald Trump put out an emergency executive order about the emergency in housing, and it's he's been pretty focused on affordability this entire time. How do appraisals fit into that, and especially given these what's happening in 2026 now?
Well, I mean, certainly, appraisal and valuation should accurately, reflect, the market, and the market itself. We just saw with our October, um, home, uh, home price index. We just saw that quarter over quarter went negative for the first time in October, this year, negative 0.3%. Um, for home price appreciation, it's still up year over year, still up 2.1% year over year. But that means there's market change happening where we have some markets that are declining and some that are still appreciating and some that are just about to turn, some that are flat, right? So getting an accurate understanding of that at a that movement at a property level, getting ensuring that data is recent, and up to date. I mean, all of our models are run weekly. We can't afford to um, stay with methods and technology that is looking in the rearview mirror anymore, right? We need to utilize the computing power available to us, the data available to us, to get up to date understanding of what's going on.
There was so many refis done right within the boom, and then you had appraisals at that time. When you look at a house that has something that recent, like how much change do you expect to see? Or like you just said, does it really depend because things are so dynamic? Like how old is too old for an appraisal?
That's a great question. I mean, what becomes really important in terms of change, obviously the market change, but also the condition of the property, matters, a lot. And um, in again in the home equity lending that we've seen, there's ways to get a very quick update or quick understanding of what the current condition is. We've rolled out an inspection cascade that looks at an automated understanding condition from aerial imagery first, and then we send someone to the property if we're not able to get a recent enough hit. So there's the idea is that um, I it's not just about one tool anymore. It's now about, I think, providing a lot of different sort of risk-based options, that let you maximize as a lender getting the highest quality, fastest, answer to provide the best experience. And it's kind of funny. It's like the GSEs actually led that process by embracing a a risk-based set of options for appraisal, with appraisal waivers and inspection-based waivers, desktops, hybrids, traditional. They've kind of set the bar for saying you don't have to have a hammer every single time. Sometimes you need a different type of tool, and so we're leaning to that same thing. Sometimes an automated understanding just from a machine is enough. Sometimes it's a human in the loop, working with that data. Sometimes it's fully a expert human going out there, and but it's just about what's the right tool for the job in an automated way that lets lenders do what they want to do, which is provide a really good experience.
So I know you guys just announced about a rental AVM product that you have that you're working with people on. Why is that? Why was that something you wanted to do? Why is that important right now?
It's really a demand thing. It's been pretty incredible to see the growth of small investors in the market buying properties, and also the demand from lenders to have products that give them a wider base of people to help, while volume is down on a lot of the conforming products. So the rise of the DSCR loan has been pretty incredible to see that growth over the past year. And what we saw is that there was a lot of friction and pain and people trying to use an appraiser to do a 1007, like this sort of standalone 1007 thing for their programs. It wasn't meeting the speed that lenders needed, and it wasn't giving them certainty up front as to like what is the rental income going to be for this property. So we rolled out a rental AVM based on the same sort of methodology that we use for our clear AVM. Again, embracing machine learning, embracing really great good data, and we've just been blown away by the adoption this year. And I just saw that Batch Data released a report in Q2. 33% of all properties purchased in Q2 were by investors, and at first you'd say like, wait, is that like the big institutional investors they're going and buying up everything? It's like, no, like these are like mom and pop investors, 1 to 5 property, um, uh, that they own 1 to 5 properties, and and it's just incredible to see that demand. So the products have to evolve and give lenders and investors something they can be confident in, but make quicker decisions for these types of loans. So um, yeah, it's been pretty fun to watch it grow.
I was going to say it's a pretty exciting thing, that DSCR loan. I mean, some people, it can be controversial, right? But in the hands of the right person who understands how to do that, it can be really beneficial as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think that some of the um, some of the assumptions I think around um, investment properties are not, are overblown, if you will, when you look at the actual data. But also, you know, there's a lot of different reasons to, I think, employ technology to help folks make good decisions. And that's what we're about. We want good, accurate decisions being made up front, and um, we don't we don't want a industry in which consumers are acting upon marketing estimates, right, or acting upon you know um, the things that are just used to get their attention. We want them armed with good, accurate data right up front, so they can you know uh, utilize that data to make good decisions.
Keenan, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. Love always picking your brain, finding out what's happening in the appraisal world, and letting our whole audience know about it.
Things are changing. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.